Hello, my name is Thomas Del Vega, and I want to ask you a question. Do you know where your water comes from? Well, I will tell you that today. Water is a mandatory resource for every living organism here on Earth, and it is the main factor for our health and the health of our Earth. The water cycle is a process that transfers water from the ground to the sky through evaporation, condensation, and precipitation, which can be shown here, where evaporation is where the water, this liquid water, will turn into a gas and then will be condensed through condensation to a liquid form again, and then fall to the ground through precipitation, which is basically rainfall. And that is the cycle, but we will get into further detail on what each of these stages are later on. Now, the water cycle is a process that transfers water from the ground to the sky through evaporation, condensation, and precipitation. And now, the purpose of this whole thing is to inform us of the water cycle, because it is important for us to know where our water comes from. Now, the process of the water cycle is important because, in the words of Bout El Al in 2002 of King County, he says that it is how water reaches plants, animals, and us in order to create healthy and properly functioning societies and ecosystems. Now, what we will be discussing is the process of this water cycle, which is through the three major stages that I have said: evaporation, condensation, and precipitation. Now, the topic of the water cycle and how it functions is very important, but the first step of this important process is called evaporation, which is where the water will turn into a gas. Now, evaporation is the first step of the water cycle to where it becomes a gas. Now, what causes evaporation is heat energy from the sun that breaks the molecular bonds that keep water molecules together in a liquid state, says Kevin Lee by Education Science. Now, when the molecular bonds in water molecules are broken, then water will change form from a liquid state to a gas state, becoming a water vapor and finalizing the first stage of the water cycle, which is evaporation. And the next stage of this process after evaporation is called condensation, where the water vapor will turn into a liquid form again, thus forming clouds. Now, the second stage of the water cycle is condensation, where it transfers back into a liquid form. After the water has evaporated and become water vapor, then as the water vapor rises into higher in the atmosphere, then it will have a lower temperature. There will be a lower temperature in the atmosphere, and this change in temperature causes the water vapor to turn into a liquid form again, says Lori Weaver by Sciencing. And with the vapor coming into contact with lower temperatures, this causes the water molecules in the vapor to combine again to become a liquid state instead of a gas state. And then the last and final stage after condensation is called precipitation. Precipitation is basically rainfall or snow or sleet or hail. That's what precipitation is. Where rain, sleet, hail, or snow will fall to the ground from the sky. And now precipitation occurs when drops of water vapor get big enough to fall out of the sky onto the earth due to high amount of water molecules being condensed into one drop of water, and thus repeating the process of the water cycle with the water that has fallen onto the ground to later be evaporated and condensed and then fall to the ground again, thus ending the water cycle, where it is precipitated, it falls back to the ground, it is evaporated again, condensed again, and then precipitated to the ground again, which is basically rainfall. It evaporates, becomes a cloud, and henceforth a cycle. Now, With the end of the process of the water cycle, this leads to the realization of the complexity of nature in producing the water that we cherish and we use every single day to form the societies that we know and ecosystems that we know today. Now, that water is produced by nature through those three stages: evaporation, condensation, and precipitation. And in conclusion, showing us that it is through understanding the water cycle and how fresh water is created by nature that mankind can continue to use water to its fullest capability in order to ensure the health and prosperity of our societies, ecosystems, and our world as a whole. That is all. Thank you.